He's an introvert, interviewing strangers from the internet, knocking down the walls of his comfort zone, one conversation at a time. This is the Gary Cantrell Podcast.
Yes, that's right. We're back for another show. My name is Gary Cantrell. This is my podcast. And, well, then again, you probably already knew that. And this week on the show, I'm talking to my pal, Tracy. I've been following her for so long on Instagram. She's so inspiring, and I cannot wait to hear all about her story today. So in just a moment, we're going to get her on the line. Before we do so, I got to tell you about my Patreon podcast producers, Daryl at Your Level Fitness, Kaitlyn at Kaitlyn Elise, 3 Y's, folks, in her name, Vanessa at Vanessa Ray's Journey, and Amanda at Mutts_and_Miles. These ladies and gentlemen are keeping the lights on around here, and I really appreciate it. Patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. I really think it's the best way to experience the show. And no, I'm not just saying that because it costs money. I'm saying that because it's true. You get the weekly show 5 days early. All these commercials right here, you don't hear them. They're taken out. And you get a higher quality MP3 192 kbps, if you guys even know what that is. Just trust me on this one. It sounds really good. And that's what you get if you jump in at the $4 tier. If you jump in at the $10 tier, I read your name and your Instagram handle and potentially your business if you have one. I read it every single week on this show. You can see the benefit, right? And look, I get it. Not everybody has money. Do this favor for me, if you would. Go on to Apple Podcasts, because that is how more than 70% of you are listening to this show right now, is on Apple Podcasts. And even those of you that don't have Apple devices, chances are you probably have a PC that had iTunes on it. Go into the podcast section of whatever Apple branded app that you have and go to leave a review. If you're not sure how to find this, I can send you links. Believe me, I need your help. Apple puts a lot of stock into these reviews. Now, you know me. I've talked up and down about how I'm not a numbers guy and I'm not big on the metrics. I'm big on delivering the show to you. But they are like the gatekeepers. And they will keep shows like this small, meanwhile promoting, pushing celebrities to the front of the line. Big names to the front of the line. So with that being said, head over to your Apple branded app or program on your PC computer and leave a review for this podcast. 5 stars, of course, only if you really like this show, and leave a sentence or two about what this show means to you and what it does for you. By doing this, we can fight back to Apple and show them that this show is worth another look. I don't have the Joe Rogan name. I don't have the big name, but I got a lot of passion about what I do. And I know for a fact there are people out there that believe in this show as much as I believe in this show. There are people that ask me week in, week out, I don't know why you're not heard by more people. I don't know why you're not some multimillionaire on a big time radio show. It's because the barrier to entry is incredibly difficult. More and more podcasts being created every single day. Also, a lot of celebrities finding out about podcasts each and every day, and they're starting them, and they're getting tens of thousands of people overnight. Sorry if I went on a rant there, but I just believe passionately about this podcast and the power of it. I used to be that guy that used to interview the big names because I knew it would be big clicks, because that's what they value. But now, I use this platform to put out everybody's story, because everyone has a story and it's time that we heard about it. So help me, help you get your story out to more people. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I would love to have 100 reviews by the end of the year. I don't think that's too much to ask. Help me if you can. You know what? I'm not even going to plug the other stuff. We're just going to get right to the podcast. Boy, we went to a place there, didn't we? Oh yeah. All right, let's get Tracy on the phone.
Hello?
Tracy.
Hey, this is Tracy.
How are you? It's Gary.
Hey, Gary, how are you doing? I'm doing really well.
I'm doing pretty well myself. I was doing a little bit of running around and now I'm here.
Well, I'm making dinner at the same time I'm talking to you, so we're both multitasking.
Oh my goodness, you're making dinner. Well, I guess we have to start out the podcast, then you have to tell me like what you're having for dinner and all that good stuff.
Okay, so what I am making is the Weight Watchers 2-ingredient dough, which is basically the self-rising flour and Greek yogurt.
Okay.
And for my family, I do it with the whole wheat flour.
Right.
And then I'm making a low-carb version of basically biscuits and gravy.
Oh, nice.
So I try, every time I looked, especially when I first started losing weight, it was all about what I can't have to eat.
Yes.
So I've really tried to find how can I make it healthy so I can still eat what I want.
That makes a lot of sense. I think that kind of behavior is really the behavior for success, because when you go through and you say, well, I'm just not going to have this, I'm not going to have that and that and that and that, you set yourself up for all sorts of mental anguish and being upset and the likelihood of quitting because you're shutting out all these foods that you once loved and now they're gone. Whereas you just take your approach where you're like, hey, I'm going to still have some of the stuff, but I'm going to find the healthy versions. I mean, that's brilliant.
Yeah. If you can find a way to never have donuts again, I'm going to need you to let me know, because donuts and tacos make my day a little bit better. So it's just finding that balance of, if I'm going to have a donut this morning, what's the rest of my day going to look like that I'm not going to, it's not even a setback, but that I'm just not going to feel like myself. When I go back to eating the way I used to, which was a lot of sugar and a lot of processed food, I don't feel good.
Yes.
For an extended period of time. But I don't stop myself from going and grabbing a donut every once in a while. It's just really bouncing out the rest of my day, so I still feel like myself.
Oh, it makes total sense. And you said, there's no way to live without donuts and tacos. I agree. I haven't had any tacos in a while, or donuts in a while, but tacos are life. And if you take my Chipotle away from me, we're fighting. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
I have not had a donut from a store in a very long time, but I will tell you, I have 2 little kids, and I don't stop for them from every Friday. They have a donut, and it's something that they look forward to. I may or may not miss that bag.
Yes.
For an extended period of time. I will not confirm or deny, but I may or may not sniff some donut bags.
No,
just to bring back that memory.
I don't blame you. I will tell you that this year I did have a challenge where I gave up alcohol, pizza, and chocolate just to see what would happen. And so far, nothing bad has come from it. That I can say. I just wanted to see like what would happen if I gave them up. Now, once the year is up, I fully plan to, sneak a few back in here and there. But I just wanted to see like what would happen. But if somebody said, hey, no Mexican food for a year, I don't think I could do that.
No, I can't. But even, when you think about like a place like Chipotle, there's so many options available to you. It's just stopping and thinking. And I also have, like, with them, their portions are so huge that for me, if I go get a burrito,
yeah,
I'll have it, but it'll be my dinner tonight and my lunch at work tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
I've had to learn to listen to my body saying, you know what, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Drink a glass of water and let's look at that plate again in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I could definitely eat off of Chipotle for, quite a while. It's, in the old days, I mean, there was a time where I could eat 2 burritos in one sitting, which that sounds absolutely insane, but I could do it, but not anymore. There's just no way.
If we do, we're having it's going to be a bad stomach day for me, but I was the same way. I could do that with like McDonald's, like getting a great big huge value meal and then an apple pie.
Oh yeah.
And add in a couple of sodas, and I'd be good. And then about an hour later, I'd feel completely full. So I do have some of those things that just because they were a go-to food for me when I wanted something, I don't go back to just because I don't want to reintroduce. To me, it's like a trigger.
Oh,
like
yeah.
McDonald's French fries are a no-no. No going back to those because that was my really look forward to. So things like that, I've switched away to, let's make our own fries. Let's get off that air fryer. Because I just can't. They were such a staple. It's hard to reintroduce them and not just go back to eating them all the time.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I mean, one of the things that I did when I first started this journey was I did do a hard ban on McDonald's. Like that was just one thing, because that was something where I was going like every day after work, and I mean every single day. So that was like a legit problem or a trigger, as you said. But I would find like a healthier version of a burger, like a turkey burger, and the old me would have had 2 burgers, but then I switched to 1 burger, and just try to find ways to slim it down a little bit, and that helped me dramatically. I mean, it was like a night and day difference.
And I think, like you said, that in that initial, it's so hard to wrap your head around changing everything that you do, but there are just some things that I can't ease my way into. I just had to stop and say, this isn't going to be part of your life anymore. And it was a cold cut. It's got to be done.
Yeah.
But other things I worked my way into, like for a long time, I cut out eating any kind of grains. And I thought, man, I'm losing weight fast. But I was so tired all the time. So then it was slowly adding things back in that were whole grain, that were healthy, that still weren't processed and had a bunch of added sugar. What could I add back in to feel full? Because I got so restricted. I was like, can I eat a hamburger and, a stick of butter and maybe some cheese, and that's all I can eat? But I was like, there's got to be some way to add other things back into what your diet consists of. And that's why I just found that cooking for me has opened a new world where it takes more time, but I'm able to have so much more food because I know what's in.
Yeah, I could see where that makes a lot more sense. And I want to talk about, your journey. For those that don't know, you've lost over 200 pounds, which is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, my God, that is insane, but insanely awesome. But I think before we even get to that way, we have to understand like where you came from, your background. So kind of, whatever you want to share, as far as like your upbringing and how you get to the point where weight loss is something that needs to be a part of your life. I mean, where did you grow up, and what was kind of that whole thing like for you?
So my background, I'm a hometown Kansas girl. I've been born and raised in Kansas all my life.
Right.
I was, at a very young age, always heavy. Both of my parents were overweight. And the easiest way to put it as a child, I was never taught boundaries with food or full or told no. So if we had a large dinner and I said, ooh, I want ice cream, because that's a child mentality. We have dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Have dessert. So I was never told no. So I never learned that stopping point of when enough was enough. So in 3rd grade, I was probably closer to 200 to 225.
Right.
By the time I graduated high school, I was closer to 350. And through my 20s, I weighed anywhere from crash dieting down to 275 and then to my heaviest at 420. So from the better part of 3rd grade through age 30, I was on average about 300 to 350.
Okay.
So I don't have that going back to a memory of high school being a size 4, a size 6. I was a size 4X my sophomore year of high school. So I was always heavy. That's just who I was. I was the bigger girl. I was everybody's friend and easy to get along with. But I was always bigger.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until I became a mom. So I had my pre-pregnancy weight, I was 325. When I gave birth to my first child, I was 420. So it was a complicated pregnancy enough to add in that weight. But then I had this amazing child and I couldn't be the parent that I wanted to be to him because physically I couldn't do what I wanted. And so I lost a little bit of weight after having him. And then I have another little boy. And when he was about 1 year old, I had taken them both to go play at a playground.
Right.
A natural thing you do with your kids. And they wanted to go down the slide. Being that they were young, I went up there with them and they both said, go down with us because they were scared.
Yeah.
I did not fit on the slide. So for me, that was the turning point where I said, I can't keep living this way because it's now stopping me from being involved with them. Before I had them, I was happy. I went out with my friends. I felt confident in who I was, but I didn't have other people to be responsible for. It was just me. And while the weight stopped me from feeling confident enough to do certain things in my life, now I'm looking at 2 little ones who I didn't want to have to grow up the same way that I did. Another big turning point for me that had a lot with my weight is my mom died when I was in high school of colon cancer. The cancer that she had spread faster because of her weight. So my doctor told me, if you can't get this under control now, while you're young enough and really have the push to do it, then you're going to be in the same position she was with your health, where your weight starts to affect other parts of your life.
Yeah.
So that was literally a slipper slide got me into this path of what can I do? And literally in that beginning point, and I know you're starting weight, you can't just jump into this great big huge workout routine.
No way.
My initial workout routine was walking up and down my driveway and sitting in a lawn chair at one end, walking back to the other end and sitting in a lawn chair. And I did that for probably about a month before I could walk even down the block.
I love that, by the way.
How heavy I was, my body wouldn't allow me to do much more without literally being exhausted to the point where I couldn't breathe. So it was a very slow process in the beginning.
No, I'm glad you said that. And I've heard a couple people share similar things about starting off very slow. And I think this is very important. I mean, because with the amount of weight you lost and you've had tremendous success, this should be evidence enough for anybody that needs to hear it, because I think so often when people look into how do I start, what kind of workout should I start doing, and what do? They go right to the gym. They go hardcore, balls to the wall, for lack of a better term. They end up hurting themselves. They end up getting out of breath. They end up getting upset. And more likely than not, they end up quitting. And so I love what you said, where you're just like, look, I'm just walking up and down my driveway for a month straight until I can walk further. And really, I mean, it really, for people listening, it's really just as simple as that. It's like, you just got to start out slow. There's no time limit on this. So this is your life. This is a life's work that you're going to be putting in. This is not a 3-week plan. This is life. And so I just wanted to add an exclamation point to what you said there, because I think it's great. I think it's a great example of the right way to go about it. And I hope that people, if there's somebody that's listening right now that like somehow they found this podcast, they found one of our Instagrams or both, hopefully, and they just said to themselves, oh, I don't know when I'm going to start. And they're listening to this. And it's like, wow, you can start just like that. Look what Tracy did. Look at all the ass she kicked doing just that simple stuff. I love it.
And a lot of people will ask, but did that do anything? If they really want to put into perspective, I went from about a month doing that, walking up and down my driveway, to walking to the end of the block, taking a break, and then walking back to my house. And within about 6 months, I was walking the equivalent of maybe a mile a day. And it wasn't fast. It wasn't like rocket speed. I wasn't like carrying 50-pound weights on my back. It was just me. And the only food thing I changed is that I was writing down what I ate, and I tried to stay between 2,000 and 2,500 calories. That's all I did. But in that first part, because my starting weight was 420, by the end of 6 months, I was down to 350. So that initial weight came off just by literally doing not the bare minimum, because for me at that weight, it was all that my body could do on top of working full time and taking care of my kids. But the weight came off. So when I see people turning to a quick fix and this fast instant gratification,
yes,
that says I'm going to drop 80 pounds in 3 months, you can do that. You can, but the end result is, what did you learn? I learned in that 6 months to appreciate what my body could do on its own. It took time, and there were times that, I'm sure you had this in that initial period, that I got mad and I got angry and I was frustrated that it wasn't happening faster. And I was looking at all the wrong things. I was standing on this scale saying, I didn't do good this week because I only lost 2 pounds. You only lost 2 pounds, but sweetheart, in that 2 weeks, maybe I cut the time that I was walking, or I was walking faster, or my breathing wasn't as heavy. I wasn't looking at the other milestones that were coming along with it, or just how much I was starting to appreciate me. Because when I was heavier, I didn't put a lot of value into who I was or what I could do for myself. But when I started really looking at what I was changing in my life, I started to put value in those little things. My pants were getting looser. That was an exciting thing for me. It was exciting to, for the first time, go into a store and be able to buy a pair of pants there and not have to order them from a plus size store online, because we didn't have a store here that carried pants big enough for me. So those little things are huge things that really you should pat yourself on the back, and not pat yourself in the back with a candy bar or food. I started to pat myself in the back with just how much extra life am I giving myself, and how much more of myself am I giving to my kids, that I can do more with them. So if anyone's ever losing weight and it feels like it's not fast enough or it's not enough, I didn't get to 400 pounds in a year. I accumulated that weight over 30 years. So for me, I know that it will always be a constant part of my life to focus on eating and being healthy, because I don't want to go back to where I was, but I value where I am now. And that value is not on a scale. That value is in, I can go for a hike. My kids and I went to the mountains last weekend.
Yeah.
I hiked up the mountain. I carried a backpack. We walked 5 or 6 hours a day.
That's awesome.
I felt happy doing it.
Yeah.
The scale didn't tell me that I lost 7 pounds last week doing it. I stayed the same weight, but I did things I never thought I'd be able to do.
And that right there is really what it's all about. I mean, it really comes down to being more than a number. I think, everybody at some point, myself included, I did the same thing. And I'm sure at some point early on, maybe you did as well. You can tell me yes or no, but so many people put a value on the number. It's all about the number. Just like you said earlier, somebody might say, oh, I only lost 2 pounds or whatever. I I'm just wondering at what point we as people are going to stop valuing just the number and look at the habits that are changing right in front of our eyes. I mean, the life that is changing right in front of our very eyes, which I think has a lot more stock than a number on a scale, which, by the way, and I don't care what anybody says, it is not in your control 100% of the time. I mean, you could be perfectly on plan, eating perfectly, exercising perfectly, and that scale may have said, guess what, buddy, you went up a pound because maybe you didn't go to the restroom, or you've got some extra water weight in there, or salt or whatever. The point is that everybody puts this stock in this number, and that stuff has got to be thrown out the window. You got to look at, instead of saying, oh, I want to lose 50 pounds in a year, how about I want to formulate new habits and be consistent with working out and eating better over the course of a year to see what happens and get my mental health in order and just feel better as a person, and then watch that as the weight, when you're not focused on it 24/7, that number, that stuff is going to work itself out in time.
Yes. And you said the biggest thing that I hope people who are just starting this is the mental health part of it. Like, a lot of people talk about what size clothes I can wear now, and I can do this and I can do that, and I feel so confident, and I'm getting more attention from the opposite sex, or I feel, good in this outfit. But no matter what, I mean, I've lost over about the equivalent of 230 pounds.
Yeah, that's incredible.
But when I look in a mirror, and I've maintained this weight now for almost 2 full years, that when I look in a mirror, I still see a 400-pound person. So my mentality will come in time that I've had to teach myself that I'm not that 400-pound girl anymore, that I'm not, my image, it has to take time. I mean, I will have been heavy all my life, so it's hard to, when people say, oh, you look really fit. Well, it's hard not to say, yeah, but I still have 20 pounds to lose.
Sure.
I think that other thing that has really helped me is, in the beginning, all I did was cardio. I was a cardio horse. I ran on the treadmill. I did the bike.
Same.
I did Zumba classes, but I was scared to do the weights because I read on the internet, if you do weights, you're going to gain weight.
Yep.
So now I really focus on building muscle. And that scale, if you get a scale that tells you your body fat percent or your water weight, that has been the biggest game changer for me to see, yep, you know what, I did. According to the scale, I put on 6 pounds, but my body fat percent went down 7%. So that means I have this lean muscle mass that I'm now stronger. I can work out harder. My clothes fit better. But people are like, yeah, but you gained weight. Yeah, you know what? I did. But it's powerhouse muscle.
That's
and
right.
So now that I've added that, I feel like I can eat more. Like, if I have a cheat meal and I want a piece of cheesecake when I go out, I can have it. I bounce the rest of my day. But now that I'm building muscle, I feel like I don't have to spend 3 hours a day running on that treadmill, literally to the point of exhaustion, because I'm stronger. And
Right.
that was the one thing. When I got to my lowest weight, which I'm about 10 pounds up from that, I actually wore bigger size clothing because I had no muscle mass at all. And so that's when I really started to think, okay, maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board and see what else I could do to feel more confident. And I went up in weight, but my clothing size went down. What I saw in the mirror went down, inches went down. And that really, for me, has helped me be so much more confident in this whole lifestyle of just being a stronger person in general. It has helped me with that mental health side to see that scale didn't tell me by a number that I was doing better, but my body told me.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you have to get away from that That scale, honestly, I have one in my house. I only weigh myself every 3 months. I do go to the gym, and I will ask one of the people who works there to weigh me, and they write it down for me. But I don't go back and look at that number. I look at my weight about every 3 months.
Yeah.
So if I trust in the people that I work out with at the gym enough that if they saw this huge jump, that they would say, hey, did something change? What's going on? Let's look at that. But I personally prefer not to see that number as often as other people do, because it makes me feel like I've done something wrong.
Sure.
When the scale doesn't show me a number I want to see.
No, it definitely makes sense. And, the mental health thing, I really want to circle back on that, because I think it's so critical to get that in line right off the bat. And so, as you're gaining the weight over the years, I mean, what is it doing for your mental health? Are you kind of self-aware that, hey, I'm really gaining all this weight? Or was it once you kind of got to like the tippy top of where you were before you started your journey that you noticed it and it had a adverse effect on your mental health?
The biggest effect it had on me, and I don't know that other men would be this way, but women, is I had no value in myself. So
Right.
I didn't see a reason that someone could be attracted to me, or that I had any choice in being picky in what type of relationships I was in, because at that weight, I should just be happy with what I get. And that's a horrible mentality for anybody to have, to say my worth is determined by how I look. But because I had been so heavy all my life, that's what I told myself is, you don't have this in your life because of your weight. So my self-worth was in that weight. And as I started losing weight and learning more about myself, I really started to see a value in who I was, and that wasn't, again, it wasn't determined on a scale or what size clothes I wore. I really started to see who I was as a person, because honestly, for me, that was a shield. It kept people from hurting me. It kept people from being super close.
Yeah.
As bad as that sounds, I used it to protect myself. So when that went away, I really had to look at who I was.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah. It can be so tough. I mean, especially when you get big, and I mean, as a guy, yeah, I mean, definitely can feel it. It's like, like for me, it was always like, I'm aware of what kind of where I'm at, and it kind of is what it is. And I would try to be like the funny fat guy, to try to, divert the attention from my shape and all that stuff. And it was just kind of like my way of protecting myself was, if I can make people laugh a lot, it's going to get their mind off of wanting to kind of pick on my appearance and my size.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. That was tough.
And it is a hard thing. And I'm sure that you felt as you lost weight that you can still be that funny guy, but it's not your protection anymore. It doesn't define who you were. I let my weight tell me who I could be and who I couldn't be.
Right.
And no one else was doing it. No one else was saying, you're too heavy to do this. You're too heavy to do that. I did it to myself. I didn't want to apply for certain jobs because I didn't want to have to put myself in that kind of interview situation where employers were looking at me. I just kind of did my own thing because I told myself I didn't look physically good enough to be able to do those type of things. So that mentally for me was my blockage, is I stopped myself doing stuff saying I was too big to do that. And honestly, I for a long time told myself I was too big to lose the weight, that it was just a lost cause. It was never going to happen.
Oh yeah. I've had that feeling. Yeah.
And I've had that feeling now where I say, yeah, I'm up 10 pounds, but I've gotten to that point in my life where I just say, it's just a normal part of life. I mean, I see all these people that are extremely fit and they're talking about losing weight. I'm like, why do they need to lose weight? But it's talking about, they're really showing you that they're human. They live life too. We all go up and down a little bit. And whether you're going up and down a little bit at 200 or up a little bit at 400, that's life. So you had Christmas with your family and you ate a little more than you normally would have. So now let's get back on track. I have that all the time where I might, for a week, I just kind of live my life and I put that on the back burner. But I know myself well enough to go, whoa, okay, now we're getting to that point where I got to come back to really focusing on myself. It was fun for a while, but I don't want to get out of control where now I'm having to re-lose 50 or 60 pounds and none of my clothes fit again. So if I ever start to feel that button of my jeans getting a little snug, that's your Christmas holiday might be coming to a little bit of an end.
Yeah, I heard that. I can definitely relate with that. Now, when you were first getting started, I mean, I think that, like, you know, we're getting ready to come up on the new year as we're taping this. I know in January is when a lot of people they want to start, and there's like a high turnover rate, you know, at the gym. A lot of veterans of the gym will call it tourist season, where people come through and they have good intentions. They really want to try something, and just for whatever reason it doesn't work, and you know, maybe they're thinking like, God, I just want to give up. And maybe you can share any experience you have of maybe you had a few feelings when you first started, like, oh God, I don't know if I want to keep doing this. Was that ever a feeling for you? And if so, or even if not, like, what kind of advice would you have for somebody that's in January and they're already ready to throw in the towel?
I did. I had many times where I thought, is this worth it? When I was heavier, and this really comes back to New Year's, because you think about friends and family, is a lot of the people that I were around lived the same type of lifestyle that I did. Going out to eat, eating what you want, and predominantly we were all heavier. Yeah. Maybe not as heavy as I was, but still heavy. So when my lifestyle changed to include going to the gym and really scaling back on the level at which I went out and ate, including drinking, my friends changed. And so they didn't understand why I had to change so much. But for a New Year's resolution, it was always, for 2020, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. For 2020, I'm going to get down to a certain size. And I changed that mentality of that New Year's resolution to be, you know, I'm not going to be in the gym every single day because maybe that's not feasible for me.
Right.
But every single day, I'm going to think about what I did that was good or that made a positive impact on what I'm doing. And my goal was always just to love myself a little bit more, because the more that I appreciated me, the easier I found that I would get out and go do a walk, because now I was investing in myself and I saw the value it brought. So when you say at the beginning of the year, I'm going to go to the gym every day, I'm going to have 25 carbs, and I'm not going to drink Diet Coke anymore, and that's how it's going to be, you are going to fail. Unless you are like Superman, you will fail and you'll have setbacks. But if you set a realistic goal, like, you know what, I'm going to make an effort to every day for 20 minutes, I'm going to do something for myself. I'm going to go for a walk. Maybe all you can do is do like I did, walk up and down the driveway or walk around the grocery store and push a cart. But for 20 minutes, I'm going to do something for myself that requires me to get up and move.
Yeah.
And I'm going to think about what I eat. I'm going to write it down and not even maybe change it, but at least recognize what you're putting into your diet. Those smaller things that seem like, well, that's an easy goal to do, or it's not this big, huge change, they're going to have a big reward. You can't just change your life overnight because now it's January 2020 and I have became a superhero that can go to the gym for 2 hours every single day. I can't do that. But I can give myself 20 minutes a day. Or I can start a journal, start an Instagram page, share where you are. I love meeting new people that are just bridging into that, sometimes from a New Year's resolution, but really helping them see that there's more to changing your life than changing your diet and seeing a number drop on a scale. There are things that seem so small, like being able to tie my own shoes and put my own socks on. I mean, cross my legs. I think I wanted to have a party on the day that I could cross my legs normally for the first time in my entire life. So when they start thinking about this new year, just make a vow to love yourself a little bit more and find small ways to make changes, because those small things make it so much easier than just starting at the top level and hoping for the best. Start with just these little things, and to me, it always works out way better.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, throughout this whole journey, I mean, like I said at the top, I mean, you lost over 200 pounds. I mean, obviously there are going to be a lot of people that are going to ask, well, how long did it take? I think that's irrelevant, but I mean, for just the purpose of kind of sharing your story, I mean, how, over the course of how long would you say it took to lose all of that?
For me, it took about 2 years.
Okay.
Which, when you really think about it, it's not that long a period of time. I lost a very large chunk of my weight in that first year. So I went from about 420 down to 300 within the first year. And then about another 100 pounds in the next year. And then I've had losses since then. But the bulk of my weight took me about 2 years. And I've never had a gain more than 20 pounds in there. That was the major thing that made it easier for me, is I didn't revert back far enough that the cycle kept starting over. So it was about 2 years, but that initial 100 pounds came off. It came off pretty quick, but when I was that heavy, making little changes really showed a lot, because I never worked out. I didn't limit what I was eating, so my body responded a lot better. And then it got harder. Then I really had to focus on what I was doing.
Right. How did that make you feel initially when it gets hard for the very first time, like really hard? How does that make you feel?
It was depressing, because I was like, man, in that first month, I lost like 30 pounds. And I was so pumped to see that number go down. And then once that initial, 100 pounds came off, then I was like 2 pounds. So I was beating myself up like, okay, I got to cut my calories. I can't have any carbs. I can't, I got to go to the gym in the morning and in the evening, and I can't do anything with my friends. I've got to keep working out. And I was pushing myself over and over again to get back to that huge scale loss. And I really lost track of what I was doing. I was so driven by the scale that I wasn't focusing on my health. And to be really honest, I got really sick. I got anemic. And honestly, for better lack of a term, I quit eating. I was burning so many calories and counting my calories so well that I was basically starving myself, because I wasn't giving my body enough food to support the amount of workout I was doing. And it really took me going to the doctor, and the doctor saying, your lab work looks bad. Something's going on that you're not telling us. And when I shared what I was eating compared to the amount of working out I was doing, I was starving myself. So when you fixate on certain things, you forget about, no matter what, you still have to be healthy. I don't care if you're 120 pounds or you're 400 pounds. You do have to eat. Food does have to be a consideration. Your body needs that. And I still battle that now, where what's that balance? How much food do I need, as opposed to what can I cut out to lose more weight? Because I could cut back. and say, you know, I'm going to drop 5 pounds and I could cut out a ton of food, but is that the right thing to do? Am I healthy in the end? So that's really, in that 2-year period of time, that was something I had to learn, was starving myself wasn't the best way to go about losing any kind of weight.
Yeah, that's just not going to work. That's for sure. And I think it's, you know, a lot of people, they look at it like, you know, I've eaten so much for so long that God, I just got to keep cutting out and cutting out and cutting out and cutting out. And that's just, that just doesn't work that way. You know, and like you said, you're going to end up making yourself way more unhealthier at the end of the day, in which, you know, you're going to go from one version of unhealthy to a completely other version of unhealthy, which are probably, you know, they're very different, but they're also kind of equal, I guess, in the sense of, you know, making your body feel bad.
Yeah, and for those people that are out there that are parents, I had little eyes watching me all the time. So when I was sitting there eating a salad with some grilled chicken and nothing else and feeding my kids, they started to say, well, I want to eat healthy like you. And I mean, I was giving them healthy meals. They were eating fruits and vegetables, and I would say, yeah, but mommy can't eat that because it's got too many carbs and too many sugars. And then I'm like, I have little minds that are learning from me, and I'm teaching them some of the worst habits. It was a fear of food, that food was going to make me gain weight, not learning that balance. So it really came down to, I had to learn what it meant to have a healthy diet. And honestly, I had to learn what it meant to be full, because that was not a sensation I learned as a child. So as silly as that sounds, I didn't know until really about 2 years ago what it meant to be full. Like, you're done eating, you don't need any more. That was something that I have to consciously think about. You're full, you're good. Or am I hungry, or do I need a drink?
Right.
Or maybe do I need to get up and walk away from the TV for a minute and see if I'm just bored? Because when I get bored, I'm going to tell you, I want some popcorn or some ice cream.
Of course.
Because I'm just sitting there.
Yeah. No, I totally understand that. Now, you know, the food obviously is it can be a very tough thing at first. You know, and it takes a lot of time to kind of get used to a new thing. And so what would you say, like, as far as like, do you have like a primary, like, plan that you follow, or you're just still kind of going with what you did early on, where you're just like finding the healthier versions of things pretty much? Cause you know, there's all these different like keto and paleo and all this stuff. Like, are you following any of that stuff?
I did in the very beginning. I followed, whatever kind of the trendy thing was. If it was keto, I did keto. If it was more like a kind of Weight Watchers points thing, I did that. And I would get results for a while, but it got to the point where I felt like all I was doing was spinning the wheel trying to fix and make this healthy thing, or spending money on a certain thing.
Right.
And I finally, for me, I went to our local grocery store, had a nutritionalist. And they were free. They weighed you. They talked about your body fat percent. And then they talked about whole foods and fueling your body. And I started to read books about what does certain things do, like oatmeal. Oatmeal is anti-inflammatory, but if I follow certain low-carb diets, it tells me I can't have that because it has too many carbs. But it's a slow-burning carb. My body actually can use that to heal itself and feel fuller longer. So I really, in the last couple of years, have turned to studying what food is and what my body needs. I've had to learn to listen to my body. I might, for a while, be what people would consider low carb because my body's telling me that I need more protein. So I'll go back to that. But I really try not to follow anything other than what I feel like I need. The main thing I don't do is I don't eat processed foods, and I don't eat quick turn to things. like prepackaged meals or shakes. I try not to replace any of my food with that
Right.
unless it's the only thing there. Some of these protein bars that are out there, they're really great, and I keep those in my purse, but I don't make it my meal. I try to have a salad, have some meat and vegetables, have a bowl of Cheerios. I try to have something because when I just give myself a shake or a protein bar, I feel like I'm not giving myself food. I've also really studied at fast food places to learn what they offer me that is something that I could have. Like, who has a salad? Chipotle has a bunch of different combos that I can put together. So I have my go-to fast food places that I can still eat there and know that I'm not putting too much into my body or falling off the rails. So I'm like everybody else. I don't always have time to make a meal at home, but I know where I can go to get things that are still good for me.
Right. No, that's great. It's a good way to go. One of the other things I wanted to ask you about though is, you know, when you lose like over 200 pounds, you know, we hear a lot about people with the loose skin and all that kind of stuff. How much of that have you had to deal with in regards to the loose skin?
You know, I have looked into having things done because I think it kind of depends on where you carried your weight.
Yeah.
For me, my stomach and my arms and my legs have been, they definitely, my size of clothing is bigger to accommodate that loose skin. And I really, for so long, have thought, I just want to get it done, and I want to get it done. But when I came back around to it, it took me a long time to get this way. My body does respond to working out, but that skin to me has kind of almost in a way become a scar or a badge of honor, something I earn.
Right.
It doesn't stop me from doing anything except for going to a smaller clothing size. I do get self-conscious, especially with my arms, because if you see them, then you'll see, yes, her arms still look very heavy because that's that loose skin. There is no amount of work in the gym that I could do realistically to make that skin go away.
Yeah.
But I've just learned to accept it. It's just what it is. It's not, it doesn't stop me. I've seen a lot of other people where it does, where it hurts their back. It has made their workouts more difficult. I am not in that boat. My skin has not ever been an issue. I don't have back problems. I don't have some of the issues. So I feel very blessed in that, that I haven't had to. But I've always kind of gotten to the point now where I've told myself at, you know, closer to my 40s or 50s, I might do something for myself and get that skin removed. But I've really wanted to maintain a consistent weight loss for about 5 years before I went down that path.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to get something done and not learn the lifestyle I needed to live and gain it back post getting that done. So I didn't ever want to start the circle again. And I always wanted to not rule out that I wouldn't have more kids. So you get all this work done, and then life throws you a curveball. So I've just learned to live with it. But I hope for people that are thinking about losing weight that they never are scared to lose weight because they're worried about what their skin will look like. It's skin. It's skin, and I have it. It's maybe not the prettiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
But it doesn't change the fact that I'm healthy. It's just there. So if people are going to judge me and say, well, I don't think she's attractive because she has this loose skin, then it's not the right person. Or if they say you need to lose more weight because you have all of this. I know me. I know that I've done what I can, and that's just something I've had to learn to accept. So I hope they don't ever fixate on, if I lose 200 pounds, I'm going to have all this surgery. You don't know what your skin will do. Everybody's is a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're coming across people that are trying to say all that stuff about you need to do this more or that, I mean, those kind of people, their shit's just broken. We don't want to deal with those kind of people, because that's, we don't need those kind of judgmental people in our lives. Especially you got somebody like you that's lost so much weight. I mean, you've done a fantastic job. I don't think anybody could come in and say that and it hold any weight whatsoever.
Nope, and the people that matter most to me in my life that really have invested the time to either know me before or after I lost weight, they know that I spent most of my life being overweight. And I'm just excited that I can do so many things that, while the skin may not look the way I want to look, it's a thing. I mean, people have birthmarks, people have so many different things that they just learn to live with.
Right.
It's the skin, and it's people comment on it. My kids do. I love them to death, but they mess with my arm fat all the time. They don't know any different. We just all laugh and have a good time. So,
yeah.
And there's so many things that you can do if your skin really does bother you, but you can't afford to fix it. There's so many types of clothing, things that you can wear that do help. So, and that also comes back to what you're eating, to really look at the food you're eating. Some of that helps with that skin also, and not dropping weight super, super fast. Your skin does respond to things.
Yeah. Well, I just want to say before we wrap this up that I appreciate your time so much. I mean, you've been so gracious with your time and sharing your story. I really appreciate it. As we're in this new year now, 2020, what are you kind of working on? Do you have like a top 3 to 5 goals that you're working on for this year and beyond?
I think my goal will always be to continually focus on the mental health side of it. Being okay to be proud of what I've done. It's not a bragging thing, but that it's okay to say, I'm really proud of the work that I did. I'm proud of where I am. I think another goal is really to focus on teaching healthy eating habits to my kids. They have a mom who was overweight. They have grandparents who were overweight. They have a dad who was overweight. I want them to learn a healthy balance of getting up and moving, and doing things together as a family, in the new year. And then I think really the only other thing is just finding a workout or a activity that makes me happy. It doesn't have to be this great, big, huge physical thing, but is it kayaking, which I've learned to love? Is it going for a hike? But just finding that thing that makes me happy, my happy go-to activity, and just going and doing it, not stopping and saying I don't have time, but finding that time for me to get out there and move and do more.
Definitely.
I can say that I have a goal to go zip lining because I've always been too heavy to go zip lining. And now that I'm there, I'm like, I'm going to go zip lining. Like this year is going to be a zip lining year.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope that you Instagram that when you do it.
It will be, but I promise you it will not be right away because I scream like a little girl. So it will probably have to be edited just a little bit so I'm not like the laughing stock of all my friends when I squeal. So maybe that first zip line will be just a private moment for myself, and then the second one will be like, let's share with everybody now that I know I'm not going to be screaming at the top of my lungs.
There you go. And the very final thing I'll say here, because again, you've been so gracious with your time. Instagram, it's a wonderful community. I was actually looking back at our first communication, and it looks like it was January of 2018. So you and I have been in contact for quite a while now.
Yep.
and tell the people if they want to jump on your Instagram, and they absolutely should, where should they go to do that?
It's Tracy's Time to Shine. So that's where they can go out there and find me. And if there's any, especially single moms out there that ever want to chat with me. I'll talk to you about how to manage being a single mom and finding time for yourself. I'd love to share that side of it.
Wonderful. Yes, do that. And I was actually scrolling back all the way. Your very first photo on here, April 29th, 2014. It's a side to side. What I'm guessing is probably your very beginning and a progress photo. And just looking at this photo where you're kind of in the mirror, you're taking a full body shot, and just to see that person there and to see the person where you're at right now, it is absolutely unbelievable. So Tracy, in closing, I will say you have done an amazing job. I say, hard work always wins. I put it on a t-shirt. You, my friend, are living it. You are living proof, and you've got the story to back it up. You talk about starting slow and being patient and consistent and all that. I love the message. And I just wanted to thank you again for joining me on the podcast this week.
Well, thank you, Gary. You have a good evening.
All right. Thanks again, Tracy, for jumping on the show. What a chat. What a story. If you're not already following her on Instagram, go follow her right now. Right now. All right. I'm going to get out of here. Next week on the show, I got my pal Kaitlyn. Can't wait for you guys to hear from her. Check me out, patreon.com/Gary Cantrell. That is the best way to get this podcast. And you're going to get it early. And you're going to get it ad-free. Check out hardworkalwayswins.com. Use the code podcast, 10% off your very first order. I got to get out of here. I'll talk to you guys really soon. Thank you so much for listening.